Banjo land, Mike Heading here. I've got another free banjo lesson for you today. We're going to be talking about melodic style. So this is a huge topic and we're going to get into it slowly. But melodic style was kind of the next big breakthrough for banjo playing after Scruggs style. So it really kicked down a lot of the doors. It opened up the ability for the banjo to be able to play note for note fiddle melodies, maybe classical music, jazz on the banjo. So it really opened up the doors to really be able to play any style of music on the banjo. We're going to get into this topic real slowly. We're going to start with just the absolute basic G major scale. And I'm going to also give you kind of a little bit of the history behind melodic style and kind of understanding how the style came about, which I think is really important to being able to play the style, is understanding the concept behind it. I'm going to break it all down really slowly right now, and if you enjoy the lesson, you can head over to my website, MikeHeadingMusic.com, and sign up for the basic free membership, and you'll get access to the tab and all the videos. Alright, here's Intro to Melodic Style Banjo. Alright, let's start breaking down this Intro to Melodic Banjo lesson, and before we start with the melodic style scale, let's look at first, how did this style come about? So first thing we need to do is look at our basic G major scale, played down the neck, and that'll help us kind of figure out how this style came about. Because I think understanding the concepts behind the style are almost as important as being able to play the style. I think it'll really help you if you kind of understand how this style came about. So let's look at the G major scale, just in first position, in our open position. And I'll play it. I'm just going to use my thumb and my middle finger, my right hand. So we have. Let's go back down those notes. So we're just going up and down the scale there. It's the Do, Re, Mi classic scale, major scale, G major scale. Go down one more time. So you'll notice from the tab or from watching me play that scale that there's multiple notes on the same string. So those first two notes are on the same string, right? Second two notes are on the same string. Third three notes are on the same string. And then last one I did open, but that could also be the 5th fret. So, not that playing those notes on the same string is bad, but it has a choppier sound. The banjo doesn't have a lot of sustain, right? So, if we're playing all the notes on the same string, it's not going to sound quite as smooth, right? So that's one of the downsides of playing multiple notes on the same string. It has more of a guitar style sound, kind of mimics a flat pick. And in some instances you'll want to use that, and you can use that to your advantage. But if you really want that smooth kind of rolling sound like Scruggs style, you couldn't play that scale using Scruggs rolls, right? You'd have to kind of approximate it using, because none of the Scruggs rolls that he is known for, you couldn't play that scale with Scruggs style roll. So remember, when you're playing Scruggs style, you're always approximating the melody. And that's a great part of that style. But just remember, you're always approximating the melody. With melodic style, you'll actually be able to play note for note melody. So let's look at one more version of that scale where we have multiple notes on the same string. So now we're going to start with our pinky down at the 5th fret on the 4th string. Then we've got frets 2, 4, 5 on the 3rd string. And then we've got 3, 5 on the 2nd string. Those are my frets. And then 4, 5 on the 1st string. That's more like a closed position scale. Again, more like how you play it on a guitar or a mandolin, where we're doing more of a staccato, kind of mimicking a flat pick sound. So those scales aren't bad or wrong, but one of the breakthroughs that allowed melodic banjo to come about was this idea of putting all the notes on different strings. So let's say we took that we took that idea and applied it to our basic scale. Okay, so we have our first notes open, so that one works. Our second note is the 2nd fret, so we have to find that note on a different string. So now we're going to go down to the 4th string, to the 7th fret, and that's going to be our next note. So we're going to have to play our open string, third string with our index finger. Now we're playing 7th fret on the 4th string. So that's what feels weird about melodic style, is you're going to a lower string, but it's a higher note. That's weird. So that's weird, right? Again, it's a lower string, 4th string, but it's a higher sounding note. So that takes a little time to wrap your head around sometimes. Okay, so we have open. Now we have the 7th fret on the 4th string. That's a different string. Now we can go back to our open 2nd string, because that's on a different string. Now we're back to the 3rd string, same idea, higher note, but lower string, 5th fret, open 1st string, same idea, now back to the 2nd string, 5th fret, 4th fret on the 1st string, and then open 5th string. So now we've got all of our notes on different strings, so let's do it real slow back down. A little faster. So see how we can get a much smoother sound when we speed that up? That's really the genius of this style, was that breakthrough of finding those notes on different strings that allowed us to play all of our notes on different strings, which makes it sound much more like a banjo. So there's two guys that kind of pioneered this style. It was probably around and dabbled with before them, but the two guys that get the credit for developing this style are Bill Keith and Bobby Thompson. And they developed it in the early 60s, I believe, and they were both great Scruggs style players. Bill Keith did all the original transcriptions of the Earl Scruggs book, so he could definitely play Scruggs style almost better than anyone. But he developed this style in the early 60s and started playing with Bill Monroe's band, and it really was the biggest breakthrough since Scruggs style banjo, because it allowed us to play note for note fiddle tunes or note for note melodies that we couldn't do in Scruggs style. Because remember, Scruggs style is an approximation of the melody. With melodic style, we can play note for note melody. So we could play Whiskey Before Breakfast just like the notes of a fiddle or a mandolin. So that was a huge breakthrough for banjo. And it really kind of kicked down those remaining barriers and doors, and it allowed people to play jazz or classical music on the banjo. Note for note fiddle tunes became a possibility. So let's look at a couple things. We'll practice that scale more in a minute, and let's do it one more time. But first thing I would do is just practice the right hand on its own. So let's just pretend they're all zeros for a second, because remember, melodic style, you're not really going to be using rolls in the traditional Scruggs sense. They're really just kind of what I would call picking patterns. You're not going to really do a roll pattern that you're going to be able to remember. It's really whatever right hand pattern you need to do to get the notes to come out. So we're going to use our index finger on the 3rd string, thumb on the 4th string, index 2nd string, thumb 3rd string. So index, thumb, not really a Scruggs roll. And then we're going to do middle, index, middle, thumb. Again, not really a Scruggs roll there. So we have add the notes back. Practice just the right hand, especially if you're new to this style and you're still kind of working on your right hand accuracy. If you're used to doing traditional Scruggs style rolls, these right hand picking patterns are going to be quite a bit different. So let's practice another one. Measure 8. So we're doing index thumb back and forth, and then index middle, index thumb. Again, not a roll pattern, remember. Measure 9. You're gonna do a lot of middle index back and forth. That's tricky. That was tricky for me, I know. Getting that kind of power with your index and middle finger. Most people, their thumb's stronger, so sometimes doing that licks like that, or where you're doing that index and middle back and forth. That's tricky. That was tricky for me, I know. So practice that. Another thing that's crucial to be able to do in melodic style banjo is you're going to break a lot of the traditional Scruggs rules that you use with your right hand. So one big one is most times in Scruggs style banjo, your middle finger of your right hand is mainly playing on the first string, right? Very rarely in Scruggs style, if ever, will your middle finger go to the second string. But in melodic style, that happens all the time. So first thing I would do is just practice moving your middle finger back and forth from the first and second string. That might feel really weird. I know it did for me. But we need our middle finger to be able to move back and forth. So let's look at measure 10, because you can see we're going to do index, thumb, and then our middle finger on the second string, and then index, middle, index. That's a good one. Your fingers are moving around a lot there. So, isolate just your middle finger at first, or practice moving up to the second string like I said. Let's do measure 11. So these picking patterns are just a few to get you started. Remember, with melodic style banjo, there's not a set number of picking patterns. There's really infinite possibilities. It just matters what notes you need to be able to play. So let's look at that same melodic style scale. One thing I like to do that just gives you a little bit more practice is add one note on either side. So we're starting with our low G as our first note. But let's find one note below that. So if you took your 5th fret on the 4th string, that's our G, also the open 3rd string. If we go down to the 4th fret, that's our F sharp. That's the note right before our G. So let's go down to that note. So we can do open on the 3rd string, 4th fret, and open. See how we can now surround that note instead of having to go like that or something with traditional style banjo. Now we can go. Now we can do the rest of our scale. So let's practice that. And then right here we're going to do one note higher, which is your pinky on the 7th fret of the 1st string. You basically can loop it around, whereas if you end with your thumb and then have to start with your thumb again, you can do that. Doesn't work quite as good for looping it though, whereas if I add that one higher note, so that's what I'm practicing there. That's a very common thing, is just practicing. I'm just surrounding those notes. What I'd recommend is start by going straight up and down the scale. That's a good way to practice your ear training, but you'll probably know from playing songs and listening to music, very rarely in kind of real music do you just go straight up and down the scale. So think of the scale as your potential notes, and then practice once you get it. You can just practice mixing them up in whatever order you want. Basically what I'm trying to do there is just come up with some ideas and really end with my low G or my high G. That's going to make the lick sound complete. Just kind of coming up with some ideas to practice there. And I'll include some in the tab you can practice. So that's one you could do. Okay, so let's look at measure 17 of the tab, because I think when you're first starting melodic style banjo, it helps to kind of incorporate some Scruggs style ideas, and I think that's going to make it more practical, right? Because most people, I'm going to assume most of beginners and intermediate players are coming from Scruggs style and getting into melodic style after they've played a little bit of Scruggs style. That's usually more of a kind of common path. So rather than just having this melodic scale be something kind of up in outer space where you're like, okay, I can go up and down the scale, but how do I use it, right? So let's look at adding some basic Scruggs style rolls and then doing a little melodic lick and then going back to a Scruggs style roll. Because then we have familiar Scruggs style roll, new lick and then back to familiar, right? So it's a better way to kind of incorporate a new idea rather than just going into this totally new no man's land up here. So let's look at measure 17. We're going to do a basic 2-5 slide with a forward roll. And then you're going to stay up in this position, and then we're going to do our little walk down on our scale. And then thumb on the 3rd string. And then we're going to do our Scruggs fill lick. And then pinch. So we have our roll. You could experiment with different Scruggs licks, or you're just trying to get a basic starting spot. From the other thing we're practicing there is transitioning from down here, kind of in our Scruggs home base, to transitioning up to here to our melodic style home base, and then back down. So you can really do anything. You could do pinches. I'm not going to include every variation in the tab, but what I want you to do here is experiment. So try some stuff. Try any Scruggs lick you know. Remember, the goal is just to transition from here up to here and then back down. That's what we're working on. So let's do the next one. Basically what we're doing there is playing a variation on the idea of something like. So now we're finding that note up here, so we're going. That's a very common kind of basic melodic style lick. Instead of going. Now we're doing. I wouldn't worry too much about the timing. All that stuff can be worked out with in time, right? Give yourself a lot of room to experiment. If you're too critical right off the bat of what licks you're playing, it's really going to impede your progress. So just try ending on a G or a high G, and whatever you do in between, don't worry about that too much at first. Let's look at some more middle finger on the 2nd string practice and do kind of a folding scale idea. A good one to practice. We're doing basically a scale pattern. It's more like an ending lick instead of doing something like maybe like a Cripple Creek ending you could do. Do that again. So what I want you to practice for this initial lesson, and this is a big topic, so take this slow. Eventually you can do that same scale in more octaves. There's other ways to play that same scale. You can do that a scale in different keys. This is a huge topic, melodic style banjo. So what I really want you to do for this lesson is get into it slowly. Take one lick or one idea and really kind of work it over and over again and see what you can come up with. Otherwise, I think it's going to be easy to get overwhelmed. If you think of so many scales and so many notes and all these different licks, start really small and you can build upon that. And again, the most important thing is understanding why are we doing this, right? So we're taking that concept of playing scales, but we're finding all the notes on different strings. That allows us to get that smooth, cascading, rolling banjo sound that's so awesome. All right, so follow along with the tab. I'd strongly recommend you use my left hand and right hand fingerings below the tab. That'll help you practice getting in these positions, and building your muscle memory, which is really important. If you're ever in doubt, forget the left hand and just work on your right hand, because these melodic style picking patterns are going to be different. You know, especially if you've played Scruggs style banjo in the past, your right hand's going to get a workout doing these new picking patterns. All right, hopefully that helps you out. All right, good luck.